All right. So, good afternoon, everybody. This is week number two of our updates. Thank you guys all very much for joining us. I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope you guys are all practicing social distancing, like the government's been telling us. And I also hope you guys have been watching my dance lessons on Facebook and Instagram. All right. But on a serious note, today, like we did last week, I'm going to do a quick 15-20 minute update. We're going to give you an update on what's happening in the market. We're also going to give you guys an update on what's happening with tenants and what you guys should be doing. We're also going to give you an update on mortgages and some rule changes and what the Bank of Canada has been doing. We're going to also give you an update in regards to the government and new incentives that they have that's been coming out over the course of the week. All right. So, like I always say, take what you can use and leave the rest. This is a news press conference, so we're not going to be taking any questions. However, what we're going to be doing different today is that if you are a Smart Home Choice paying member, so if you're either a virtual member or if you are a platinum member, we're going to be opening up a question and answer call right after this particular call. Okay, so that email will be coming into your inbox at around 12:15 or so. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. And with that, I will pass it over to and you know what? Hold on. Before I kind of get into this, I should let you guys know and introduce my team. I didn't even do that because I know there's people obviously on the call that know who we are, but there may be people on here that's maybe finance for the first time. So my partners, I got Quentin Cordick, who is a real estate investor, real estate agent. I've got Chris Hummel, who is also a real estate investor and real estate agent. And then I've got my beautiful wife, Darlene, who is a mortgage agent. All right. So with that, Quentin, you are up. I think you've got some pretty interesting news. So I'm actually excited to hear about this myself.
All right. Thanks, Gary. And thanks, everyone, for spending some time with us here this afternoon. Keep in mind, this update is going to cover March 23rd to March 29th. So we're doing it on a week-by-week basis here. So let's jump right into the Peterborough numbers to start. Overall, Peterborough currently has 93 active listings right now. We had 22 listings that hit the market last week. Okay. We had 11 listings that went into conditional status last week as well. And then we had 22 listings that firmed up their conditions and were posted as sold. So if we sum up the previous week to this week here, we're seeing a pretty healthy Peterborough market. So what that seems to be telling us is buyers who were intending to buy are still active in the marketplace out there, and sellers who intended to list their property this spring are still doing so. And that's probably based on the activity that they're seeing in the marketplace. So we're not really seeing any real changes in terms of activity. It's still pretty healthy, and that's what it's showing us up to this point in time. So as always, we'll be in touch to see how that market progresses the following week. But as of now, everything is healthy and stable there. We haven't even seen any drop off there. Turning over to the Oshawa market. So this, we're going to be focusing on freehold properties in Oshawa. Right now, there are currently 282 active freehold listings in that marketplace, and we had 100 new listings hit the market last week. We had 34 listings that went into conditional status, and we had 28 listings that firmed up their conditions and listed as sold last week. So in comparison to the previous week, what did we see? We saw listings come down a touch. It was 112 the previous week, 100 this week. We did see the amount of transactions that firmed up from 49 down to 28 at this point in time. And some of the things I saw were maybe some conditions were extended. So we'll keep a close eye and see what those numbers look like the following week. So some of the reasons are maybe appraisals and whatnot, just taking a little longer and still trying to navigate that. So we're seeing some extensions in deals. So all in all, to sum up Oshawa there, I think things have slowed down a little bit if we're comparing that to the Peterborough market. So we'll keep a close eye on that. But overall, we're seeing price points stable pretty much across the board, Peterborough and Oshawa. So we're not seeing any significant changes there. Okay. And now keep in mind, we're focusing on Peterborough and Oshawa right now because that's where a lot of our investors are investing. But we do still work with a lot of people that are just buying and selling. So if you have any questions about your particular situation or your marketplace, please reach out to us and we're happy to review that and help clear up any uncertainty you might have. Because for us, the game plan still hasn't changed. We treat everything as a case by case basis and we treat it with your needs and analyze it based on that. One last point, Gary, before I throw it back to you, is we wanted to mention that the permit process in Peterborough, because we have a lot of our investors converting to 2 units at this point in time. So it's still moving along, but it has changed a bit and it's a little slower right now in the sense of one example is they're still accepting applications, but they're being dropped off in their office in a box. And then those documents are held in quarantine for at least a day before they start getting to that. And we have people waiting on inspection. So we're just getting clarification to see how the inspectors are handling that as well. So that's the market updates for this past week. And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions about your marketplace as well. Back to you, Gary.
All right, cool. Thanks, Quentin, for doing that. All right, so my segment is I'm going to be talking about tenants and how to deal with it and what's been happening over the course of the last week. So I'm sure some of you have seen either on social media or you may have seen on the news that there's been some social media groups that have been created to keep your rent for April. And so I think that was one of the things that was really important when we started this last week was to make it very important or the importance of actually reaching out to your tenants, right? Finding out what's happening, in their lives, find out what's happening if they've been impacted by what's happening with COVID-19. Okay, so here's what's also very important, and I touched on this last week as well too, is that if they don't pay their rent, just make sure you're keeping track in regards to what's happening, because here's the thing, that at some point in time the rent is going to come due, right? So you want to keep track of that. Doug Ford is not coming out and saying that it's any kind of forgiveness. So make sure that you're keeping track of the rents. Now, I've also gone into some of the forums online, and I mentioned this before, it is getting ugly in some of those forums, the back and forth. Here's one thing that I can stress to you guys, like if your tenants don't pay in April, there's no point in threatening them. So, you're talking about, and I'm hearing people saying they're going to go to the doors and they're going to do this, and they just don't. There's no point in making a situation that's already bad even worse. So here's some of the things that you can do. Number one, you can educate your tenants, and just make the time to be able to do that, right? So find out, did they lose their job? And if they did, maybe help or direct them to where they need to go to apply for EI. One of the things that the government's come out with is the CERB program, which is the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. So maybe look into that for them a bit and point them or give them the URL for that. Now, there's one of the things I looked at, and I got this actually sent over to me by one of my investors, and it was actually pretty cool tool that you can use in regards to, if your tenants have been impacted by this and maybe they can use their credit cards to make payments. There's a website, and what I'll do is I'll actually put it in the chat box. It's called getdigs.io, and essentially this is a platform so that the tenants can actually go there and pay their landlords by using their credits. And so it's beneficial for the tenants because they'll get points, kind of like Aeroplans or something along those lines. I didn't dig deep into it. The landlords, from what I've read, they don't have to pay a service charge for this, but the tenants pay 1%. But again, look into it. It's an option for for any of the investors, and also for any of the tenants that that are going through this the situation that we're going through. And in regards to tenant, that's about all that I have. So Darlene, I'll pass it over to you, and I'll get that that URL in that that group chat, so you guys have access to it. Okay.
Thanks, Gary. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Darlene Hibbert. I'm actually with Butler Mortgages and part of the Smart Home Choice team here. There's a few things that I wanted to talk about today. One is deferring your mortgage payments. Also like to touch on the Bank of Canada's latest rate drop, what's going on with appraisals, and the bank's position overall on mortgages. So with regards to deferring the mortgage payments, this is a viable solution in the event that you have lost your job or your tenants cannot pay. But our position is that you use your cash reserve first, and then the deferral is a secondary option. The banks have stated that there will be no negative impact to the credit score, but I think it's a good idea to keep a close eye on your credit just to ensure that this is the case. In regards to the prepayment of these mortgages, you know, are they going to add the interest to your current term? Will your payments increase? The best thing to do is to contact your mortgage provider and find out all the details. So moving on into the Bank of Canada's latest rate drop, surprise or no surprise, on Friday, Bank of Canada reduced their rate from 0.75 to 0.25, which is the third rate cut in a month. So last week on our last Smart Home Choice exclusive interview, I did mention and would like to reiterate that this does not translate into lower fixed or variable rates. This should actually cause rates to climb higher until the market achieves some type of relative stability. At least that's what the word on the street is. So one thing that I did want to caution you on is to be aware of the variable rates. Variable rate is usually a discount off prime, but with the recent interest rate cuts from Bank of Canada, you'll be most likely quoted a rate of prime plus. So this will still relatively be a low rate, but just take into consideration that during your 5-year term mortgage, there is a possibility that Bank of Canada will raise their rates again, and you may be faced with a rate that is now prime plus versus prime minus that we've taken advantage of in the past. One of the other things I've been asked about lately is in regards to appraisals. So at this time, many appraisers, they're not willing to do on-site appraisals, and many homeowners are not comfortable with that appraiser being in their home. So what the banks have done is they have done modified appraisal requirements, and most applications will not require a full appraisal. For those that do, they will accept this modified appraisal that doesn't include an interior inspection, but the best thing to do is confirm this with your broker or bank rep who is processing your mortgage. So lastly, you know, with regards to the bank's positions, you know, the banks, they want to work with you. They are not in the business of holding real estate. They want to work with you to ensure that your mortgage can be kept up to date during these unprecedented times. That's kind of it for me, but if you guys have any questions, you can always email any of us at investor@smarthomechoice.ca. Thank you. Back to you, Gary.
All right, Chris, you're up, my friend.
Hey, all right. So I'm going to be talking about some of the benefits, some of the things that, or programs rather, the government now has put forth to help us out, to help us as well as our tenants out. So obviously, first off, EI. They've currently waived the EI waiting period for those who are new claimants who are quarantined, for example. They do not now need a medical certificate either. So, and also payments will be backdated to cover any delay period. So obviously if your tenants, or if yourself, if you're in those situations, then it's very important that you apply as soon as possible. Child benefit. So again, we talked about some of these things last week, but the child benefit, $300 more per child will be added to the regular CCB payment, Canada Child Benefit payment. That's as of May. All right. Now, something that has changed since we spoke last time was the CERB, Canadian Emergency or Canada Emergency Response Benefit. And that's to help workers and self-employed. So workers and self-employed with up to with a $2,000 rather payment per month for up to 4 months. Now, you can only apply to that as of April 1st. That's when it should be opened up, and you will find the application in your CRA account. All right. And don't forget that they are also extending tax the tax filing deadline to June 1st. So announced also now for businesses in particular, up to 75% of wages will be subsidied for 3 months, retroactive March 15th. Now, currently it says it's to cover up to $847 per week. So I know a lot of businesses are hurting, and obviously this is something that we're hoping, that Canada rather is hoping will be helpful. So up to 75% per employee at this point, covers 75% of their wages. Interest-free loan also for $40,000, up to $40,000 rather, for small businesses. Now, it's interest-free for the first year, and if certain conditions are met, $10,000 of it is forgivable. And of course, don't forget income tax and HST are also deferred, which we had discussed last week. So now here's something that's important is if you go onto the Ontario website, you'll find a list of essential services in Ontario. Now, some of you guys were concerned about closings and other things. Well, professional services like your lawyer, she is now listed as a essential service. Paralegals, essential service. Accountants, real estate agent services, of course, and moving services are all listed as essential services. Some of you guys employ your property managers. Well, they can continue to work as well, along with contractors. So plumbers, electricians, janitorial services, whatever the case is. Now, obviously, things will have slowed down, but they are listed as essential services. Check cashing services. So some of you guys might have tenants that might be going to some of these check cashing places, for example. These are also considered essential services. And most importantly, I think for some of you guys, is that the land registry system or service is also listed as an essential service, meaning that your transactions, when they do close, should they close, they can also, the deed, the title can be registered, and those things can be transferred. That's what I got.
All right, beautiful. Thanks, Chris. All right, so listen, with that, we're gonna kind of wrap it up here, but I do have a quick little outro that I want to go through, just in regards to what's happening and how we're moving forward. So yes, we're going to continue to do our online events. The next one that we have is Thursday, April the 8th, and we're going to be doing that with the city of Peterborough, okay? And just really kind of talking about obviously converting single family homes into 2 units and what's happening in regards to how things have changed for them with COVID-19. The other thing that we're going to be doing on April 9th, and we've done this one here before, so I'm actually excited to see how this is going to work, is we're going to do our Fast Start training class, which is learning how to invest in real estate. And we're actually going to go through the numbers from beginning to end so that you can understand how to analyze an investment property. Now, like I mentioned earlier, at the beginning of this particular webinar, so if you are a Smart Home Choice paying member, if you are either Platinum, so online, or if you are, Platinum, so full member, or if you're a virtual member, we're going to be doing a call right after this. So check your inbox. There's something that should have been sent to you about maybe 5 minutes ago or so, okay? Now, listen, I know that there's a lot of fear. Where is the market going to go? And look, nobody really has that crystal ball. And like I've mentioned before, one of the things I do is I like to kind of take a look to see where things have been in the past. And let's go back to 2008 and what happened during that downturn that they had. So let's take a look at the US. And if you look at the US and you take a look at what their unemployment went to, it went to 8%, okay? So now let's reverse that number. That's still over 90% of the people out there that are working. But I know you're probably saying, yeah, well, Gary, that's 2008. This is completely different. And so fine, let's go back even further into history. Let's take a look at the Great Depression. And so the Great Depression back in 1929, unemployment went up to as high as 25 to 30%. So yes, significantly higher. However, let's reverse those numbers, and that's still 70% of the people out there that are still working, okay? So that don't just look at the negative side of the thing, look at also the positive side of things as well too, right? And so, do I think that real estate prices are going to plummet? If I take a look at the homes that we're buying, our investors are buying homes that are under that 450,000 mark, I don't see it. Is it possible that it could slide a bit? Yes, but I just don't see it plummeting. Now let's take a look at the homes that are larger, homes that are maybe say 800,000, or homes that are 1.5 mil. Could those ones slide more? Absolutely, I can potentially see that, because look, at the end of the day, whether we are in an uptrending market or for a downtrending market, good times or bad times, people always need somewhere to live. And so this kind of reminds me of when I did a podcast with Les Brown, and one of the quotes that really kind of stuck with me was, life happens for us, not to us. And so there's always that silver lining with anything that happens. For instance, take a look at what has happened to our business. Like we've taken a significant hit. We're not out there. This is our hot season for us. But, we're now doing more online events. We are now meeting and reaching out to more people than we have before. So there's a silver lining right there, and so I get it. Sometimes it's difficult to see that silver lining when things are, in a place of fear, and I understand that. And so here's one thing that I think you guys could do that will help you, is just to try to quiet the noise. And maybe what you can do is do some meditation. Just lay quiet, try to knock out all of that fear and all that noise that's happening, or go for a walk, get some fresh air. I think after this call is done, or after we do the call with our members, I plan on just going out, just take a walk around the block, right, to help kind of clear my head. And so hopefully that helps. I hope you guys are enjoying these exclusive calls that we're doing for you guys. And with that, we are going to be jumping on that other Zoom link right now. And for the rest of you, thank you guys all very much for joining. Chris, Quentin, and Darlene, thank you guys for that update. I appreciate it. And listen, if you guys are enjoying this, let us know. Send us an email. And if you guys want to continue to see us doing this on a weekly basis, okay? So thank you guys very much. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.